Hello, everybody, and welcome to Rewind to Raw. I am John Pollock here with you to go through all of the action from Monday night in Houston, Texas. And much like F1, Wei Ting is into his summer break schedule. So Wei will be back at a date to be determined, but we've got a deep roster that is going to be accompanying me because there's no way that I'm going through Raw solo on Monday nights. And joining us tonight here in beautiful 4K, crystal clear. Shout out to the chat room because here comes Andrew Thompson, who is here with us on Rewind to Raw. Andrew, my good man, how are you?
Hey, John. We was talking about it before we started recording, man. Last time I did the daily news show with Wade, they was killing me in the comment section, man, about my camera. One dude said I had PS2 graphics.
Oh boy,
they was on my back, man. But you know what? Look at this. 4K Thompson is officially here, man. On Post Wrestling Out.
This is beautiful. You could convince me that you're sitting here right with me. That's how clear the picture is. So we're kicking things off tonight. It is obviously a very intriguing time in WWE, and I wanted to rewind just a bit, going back to SummerSlam on Saturday, and certainly last week with Raw, as I had heard and had been reported elsewhere, like a lot of that show had been kind of structured before all of the changes. So I think a lot of people were watching this past weekend and tonight's Raw as indicative of the significant changes. So tell me some of your impressions of SummerSlam on Saturday night and just kind of the overall feel you had after that show, if you felt like it did feel like a significant change.
Yeah, it definitely did feel like a change in WWE's overall presentation. It's funny you said that because I remember the Raw commentator Jimmy Smith had did an interview not too long ago, and this was after the MSG show, and he was just like, he was talking to one of the producers of WWE Raw, and he was just like, a lot of people are going to view that show as like some indictment of what it's going to be like post Vince McMahon, but he was like, that specific show had already been structured while Vince was still in place. So I think that was like, I think it was like a sort of like a fair point to make in terms of like what was to come. But like, I definitely think SummerSlam and tonight's Raw was definitely like a change in terms of like, we seeing sort of like these fresh matchups, and you got people like Champa, heading to the U.S. title picture, and we getting EO popping up on TV, and getting the matches against Bianca and stuff like that. I mean, it wasn't like necessarily a perfect show, but it definitely does display like what could come in the coming months in terms of WWE's on-screen product.
Still paying tribute to some of the old tropes. They'll still made their way into the show, so we will get into that. One complaint that I don't know if I heard one person say, but we got addressed tonight was, what is plaguing Raw? There isn't enough of Raw. Maybe we could just do a commercial-free first hour. That might cure the issues that are out there. But we'll talk about that in a little bit. So yeah, I think SummerSlam was largely a very well-received show from people, and one that I just sense like a lot of optimism coming out of that show. And I think a lot of that you can attribute to just the returns of Bayley and Io Shirai coming up to the main roster, Dakota Kai. It just started that show on such a high note for people that I think that carried itself through the show, that you had the feeling of kind of an updated view of the product and kind of a make good with your audience that I think that kind of transcended throughout the whole show, like, which it had its ups and downs, but it was overall a pretty positive review that most had of the show.
I feel like that's kind of the thing with not all pro wrestling shows, but it tends to be like the normal thing in the terms of the route to go. Like when you start off a show hot, it sort of like carries over throughout most of the show. And like, of course, you'll have your peaks and valleys throughout it. Like, I think, of course, like that show started off real, had that SummerSlam show. And then like, I felt like that it felt like the beginning of the back end of that show had that down taken, especially with the way the Ronda and Liv match ended. That's still like sort of that down point in the show, and then it eventually rose back up with the main event. But I'm pretty much like you said. I think it was a solid shot. I'd give it like a 7.9, maybe an 8 out of 10 for SummerSlam.
So did you seek out anything else that was going on this weekend? I mean, StarCast was holding all of its panels, and of course, Ric Flair's last match on Sunday night. What were some of the highlights that you checked out this weekend that you were interested in as well to go out of your way, because there was a lot to pick from?
So definitely that Moxley Desperado match. I didn't see it live, but I saw the I saw a lot of people tweeting about it, so I definitely went to go check that out, and it definitely lived up to the hype. Especially that spot that was making the rounds when he took I don't know, with the skewers, I think that's what it's called. He smacked him against Moxley's head. That was crazy. I think it was Cole. I hope I'm not butchering his name. Cole Ratchet right now. I think he won the DDT Extreme Championship. That was cool. Blake Christian and Hiromu Takahashi.
Yeah,
I don't know if I'm not mistaken. Yeah, that was a good one. And and of course the Ric Flair's last match. So firstly that I felt like the in-ring action for the most part. I'm not talking about the Flair match. I'm talking about just the card in general. I feel like the in-ring action was pretty good, especially that 4-way with
the AAA match was,
man,
that was incredible.
Goodness. Yeah,
I thought it was the best match. Granted, I didn't see any of the Stardom Grand Prix over the weekend, but what I saw of WWE G1, that was my match of the weekend. Was that 4-way? I just thought it was absolutely spectacular. And Bandito owes Black Taurus,
man,
dude, like that's a make good you owe that guy for the foreseeable future, because he, for those that missed it, Bandito, who's coming off that neck injury recently on the Triple Mania card, is doing a Tope Con Hero to the floor, and he's about to fold his neck onto the floor. And at the last second, Black Taurus just catches him, just complete perfect catch, and they just boom go right into a code red spot on the floor. But it was like frightening, but the save was incredible by Taurus.
You want to know what? I was like literally just about to, I was about to bring that. I was like, did you see when Bandito almost went? He almost spiked himself like legit. And you want to know what? It's kind of crazy though, because Black Taurus, I think everybody did great in that match, but I feel like Black Taurus, he kind of showed out a little bit, in terms of he felt like the guy that was in some of the most marquee moments throughout that match. I feel like he did an excellent job of really carrying his weight, of course, with everybody else in the match. But yeah, that was probably one of my favorite matches of the weekend. That was a great match, and of course the main event of that show, that was something.
How did you feel? How did you feel going into the match? What was kind of your overall impression, just of the idea in and of itself of a 73-year-old Ric Flair having another match? Regardless of a tag match and doing the smoke and mirrors. But I mean, was this something that you were kind of indifferent to, against, or did you just see it for what it was?
I did not I was not a big fan of this happening in general, because I mean, just like you said, it's a 73-year-old man with a pacemaker in his heart. So it was one of those things where even throughout the match, I saw you had noted it in your news update today. Go check that out on the Post Wrestling site. It was a real good write up that John did. But I was under the same sentiment of you where you was it felt like Flair was just trying to make it to the end. And it definitely felt like that, because I'm still dude, it was moments in that match where he was just and I'm talking about even early on when he just gassed, and he was throwing these now I'm not I wasn't expecting anything, but it was just it just felt like this race to the end where it was just okay, we just get through it and that's it. And I feel like the people who were there, they were in, it's completely different.
They were there to love it, Andrew. Yes, they were not there. They were not going to put their critical hat on at all. But I mean, it is what it is. If you're assessing this, and a big part of it was that, Ric Flair was not happy with the way things ended with him. So, it seemed by the end, he seemed that, I got through this, and he seemed genuinely moved by everything. Hopefully that gives him his fix of what he was looking for. But for a lot of these performers, Andrew, it's you hit that high and then it's hitting that high again. And I have no doubt with Ric Flair that come 6 months, a year from now, this is someone that's always going to have that itch that he's going to want to have in his professional wrestling career. And God knows if the figures he's thrown out that he's had offers for, he says he will not do another match, but there's serious money that people are putting behind Ric Flair continuing.
I think he's gonna do another match. because if I'm not mistaken, I think even in his promo he said like one of my last. It was the verbiage he used, and maybe that could have just been like him, in the moment, and loss of breath and all that stuff, and him just talking and rambling and stuff. But I definitely think that Ric Flair probably end up doing another match. Like I won't say it probably be anytime soon. Maybe I definitely think he'll do one before 2022 is over though.
That's yeah, it was. Listen, he went into this injured. He had like the foot injury,
and I mean the plantar fasciitis injury.
Yeah, which is that's a serious injury. Like you're dealing with. I know fighters that have had to deal with that, and that's like a hell of an injury to deal with, much less a 73-year-old. And like it was a tough match for Ric Flair to get to. Like it wasn't pretty. He was totally done by the end. Not even by the end. Like early in this match, like you could see. I mean, they did. God, they teased a heart attack at one spot where he's there in front of. It's like, I don't know.
Hey, hold on, wait, hey, John, real quick. I had one of my friends who he's not like that tapped into wrestling. Like he keeps up with it for the most part. He like keeping up with like stuff here and there. And like I had sent him my fight link so he could watch the show. And like dude said he was just laughing like the whole way through. Like and his first thing was, this is like much like pretty much everybody else is like, this is a 73-year-old man. Like, why is he doing this? But like, especially at the end, like he didn't even win the match. I mean, to be honest, like his shoulders was on the mat the same as, but I don't think that he could physically.
Ty goes to the retiring wrestler. Okay, that's how it was judged.
Hey, John, real quick before we move off that, can we please talk about Jeff Jarrett? This man, the longevity in like different parts of his career.
Dude, I thought like for 55, dude, he looks in great shape. Like this is a guy that like if he didn't have his existing duties at WWE, like right. he could do his like little run wherever he wants to go. I thought honestly for this kind of a match in Nashville, like he worked for the spot. So I mean with him, I mean it's an incredible story with Jeff Jarrett that he's just become like this interesting kind of Forrest Gump of wrestling that just finds himself in all of these different scenarios. Like he's just the guy just in the crosshairs of all these historical events in pro wrestling history. And it's rather remarkable. And especially when you look back at a few years ago when it was his exit from Impact and then turning his life around and where he is now. I mean, this would have been very hard to forecast 5 years ago where this guy would be, and in now like a prominent executive spot in WWE.
Jeff Jarrett, man, we call him the ultimate bag chaser. Jeff Jarrett is everywhere doing everything. SVP of WWE live events, man. Like what is it Jeff Jarrett doing these days?
I think it was your interview that was the turning point. I think after that, I mean, he gets the podcast rolling. It's like all this, he's back with WWE, all of this stuff. I think that was really the turning point for him. But just last thing on the Ric Flair show was, how did you think they did just in terms of like the promotion of the event? Like it was a pretty healthy crowd that they had. They upscaled the venue. They went to the Municipal Auditorium. They had no television to build this off of. This is pretty much just online and through the documentary series that they did. And the hook being Ric Flair. Like that's what the show was entirely sold on. But what did you think just of this concept? And do you think like there's a market that like Conrad Thompson and his kind of network that he could do more of these live events, or did you just view this as this was a one-off and this is not something they'll probably try in the future?
Now, see that's an interesting one. I definitely, now that you bring that up, I definitely can see maybe Conrad getting into that side of things and doing like a promotional thing, like once every couple of months, or maybe like in a quarterly period or something like that. But I had read, I think it was PW Insider who had reported that David Sahadi was the one who produced the show. He was like the person, like
he was on the credit roll. Yeah.
It was him and I think Brian Road Dogg James. That those are the people.
Yeah,
who were,
he
like,
was listed as a producer too.
Yeah, so I mean, if you can get like maybe not the exact same crew, but people who were on this crew and could continue to have these like varying different relationships, these promotions, because like. You had New Japan people on this card. You had AAA people on this card. Impact, MLW. You had interpromotional stuff. Like that stuff is interesting, man. And if you can build something consistent to it and just generate enough interest, like you did on this one, I think they could do some, like I said, probably like quarterly, and draw enough interest to where they can run similar venues like how they did this past weekend.
Last bit of news here, and we'll get to the Raw review. Just looking at the ratings from Friday. So SmackDown going into SummerSlam the night before, they did 2,193,000 viewers and a .52 in the demo. They were number one on television for the night in the main demo, even though they were down from the week before. But that was the SmackDown that held all the curiosity because that was just hours after Vince McMahon's resignation. So if you throw out last week, this would have been their highest in over a month. So down from last week, but it was still a healthy number and number one on television. Rampage, on the other hand, had a very rough week. They fell 12% in viewers, down to 375,000. It would be their lowest viewership in their regular time slot on Friday night and fell 36% in the demo to a .11. There were just some stunning losses of audience this week, Andrew. Their 18 to 34 number fell in half by 50% from last week. This was a show that the male audience fell 41% in 18 to 49. It fell 74% in males 12 to 34. So in the demo, it equaled their lowest ever for Rampage with another show that didn't even air in the time slot. So this was a really bad number for Rampage. And it's also not out of the blue. Like Rampage, it struggled during the NBA playoffs because it got bounced all over the place. But it also hasn't rebounded since the playoffs ended. And I'm just curious just what your thoughts are with Rampage. I mean, this is clearly the number 2 show now of AEW. Yeah. I think it's a distant second from Dynamite at this point. And do you see any major changes that they put to Rampage? Do you think that they react in any significant way to this trend? Or do you feel that this is the reality of what they're expecting on Friday nights? But it is down, and it's been consistently down.
I definitely think it's the latter part of what you just said. More so this is the reality. What they're expecting, sort of throw a counter question at you. I mean, when you slide a show at 11 p.m. on a Friday night, realistically, what numbers would you be expecting on a consistent basis? And it has been steadily declining, but when you have that type of time slot. What numbers would you just realistically what would you be expecting from a show in that specific time slot?
Well, I don't think anyone has any illusions to this.
Or that 10 to 11 p.m.
Yeah, 10 to 11 Eastern.
Yeah, 10 to 11.
Yeah, I don't think anyone has any beliefs that they're going to be doing the level that Dynamite does on Wednesday. It's a better night. It's a better time slot. But that said, it's not like Rampage is in a new time slot. It's been at this time the whole time, and they're down from what they were doing prior. So I do feel that over time, this has become a show that if you sit down, I mean, most Friday nights we sit down, it's a fun hour, it's good wrestling, but is it must-see? Is it something that you're going to feel you missed out on? And I don't think that's the case. You're going to get a great hour of wrestling, and you know what? We get a lot of great wrestling on a weekly basis. I think that's where you kind of have to weigh, do we put major stuff on Rampage, even though it's going to be a lower audience, and take that away from Dynamite? I would say a year ago, if we compare now, let's say CM Punk was coming out of retirement this year instead of last year. Do you think they do it on Rampage?
No.
I don't think there's a chance they do what they did last year, but that was a huge deal to establish Rampage. Yeah. And if a Punk came along today, and there's no way they're doing a live Rampage as opposed to Dynamite. At least I don't believe they would, unless they absolutely had to for scheduling reasons.
And Rampage this week is live, right? This is the live.
That's right. It is. Week, right? You're right, because they're doing this and a Battle of the Belts on Friday night, so it is live. Yep. That's maybe makes a little bit of a difference for them, but yeah, this was a really bad number, and I don't know what you necessarily attribute to. You had. The main event was Anna Jay and Ruby Soho. You had the Best Friends trios match with Satnam Singh, Jay Lethal, and Sanjay Dutt. I guess those were the two kind of marquee matches. Or maybe people just did not want to hear the Acclaim's new rap video. I don't know what you assign here, but I think it's an overall trend. I don't know if it's one weekly lineup or anything. It just seems to be a growing kind of seeing Rampage as skippable on a Friday night. So it's
let's say or maybe people just. I can catch it the next day or the following Sunday or something like that, and just catch up to it whenever you can. Because, like you said, it's not me personally. I don't think it's there are some weeks where I'm like, okay, I want to see what's going on Rampage Live, and there's other weeks I just catch it tomorrow, or I catch it the next day, or something along those lines. But like, I really I don't remember the exact numbers for it, but I really did like that stretch where Rampage came on like early in the day. Like I think it was during the playoffs. Like they was like on like 5 p.m. and I really enjoyed that. I felt like that was like a good little thing. I don't know if the numbers like reflected like my personal thoughts about it, but I feel like that was like a good little a little time slot for them, especially in that time. And it seemed like a lot of people, like from my Twitter timeline, saying a lot of people enjoyed that too.
Final thing here, just for the schedule this week. It is a brand new month, so if you want to hop aboard the Post Wrestling Cafe, we are going to have 3 G1 shows coming out this week. We've got Mike Murray joining me on Tuesday. On Friday, Bruce Lord will be with me, and then Sunday, we're going to recap 2 shows with the one and only WH Park. So all of that is happening at postwrestlingcafe.com. Also for Cafe members, I'll be doing a Battle of the Belts 3 post show on Saturday night because we're getting that as well. That's taped on Friday. And the whole schedule is up at postwrestling.com. And if you want to jump aboard, postwrestlingcafe.com. And we'll get all of Andrew's plugs in at the end. The man is a very, very busy man. So we'll set aside about 30 minutes for what's coming up in Andrew Thompson's world. He's a busy one. But we have...
Hey, Claudio versus Takashi. Oh my!
I'm looking forward to that. I mean, these Battle of the Belts have not been the biggest cards, but I'm really looking forward to that match on that we'll see on Saturday. So, yes, that will be the big headliner there. But tonight we have Raw to discuss from the Toyota Center in Houston, Texas. According to WrestleTix, over 10,000 tickets out, so it was a very big crowd per Raw standards. And we got the commercial-free first hour, and This was an interesting maneuver. And I mean, to be fair, when we have seen these commercial-free hours, I mean, one of the benefits of that is that, you know, there's less reason for your audience to tune out, and it usually does swell the viewership. The trade-off is you don't have any advertising that first hour, but this is one where I'm sure this first hour will do very well coming off the pay-per-view, the added interest, and not having any commercials to let people, you know, tune away. But I do not need commercial-free hours on Raw, just as a viewer, personally.
For real? You ain't like that?
The commercial-free aspect, it's a long night, Andrew. I need those commercials. It's for a 3-hour show. You do it every once in a while. I get it, but let's not make this a staple of Raw.
What's your preferred snack of choice during the commercial breaks on Raw? What you snacking on?
Dude, I have like a decaf coffee and that's and some water. It's a pure liquid diet when I'm watching Raw. I'm preparing myself for endurance wise of what I have to go through with Raw and then chatting afterwards. How about yourself?
I had this nasty ass handmade pizza from Domino's. That shit was horrible.
Handmade pizza from Domino's.
Handmade, it's disgusting, bro. It got this like nasty, like garlicky flavor. So I want my money back. That's what I want.
Man, no love for Domino's.
Burying Domino's on the podcast.
Yeah, I mean, geez, they got their fill of wrestling last year with Jericho and Nick Gage, and now getting some.
Look at that.
Look at that, and now here on Rewind to Raw, I don't think Domino's is going to be calling up Way for any ad spots either. Becky Lynch starts out the show, and she comes out in a sling as they recap the match at SummerSlam, and the whole arena is chanting for her. And she says how she finally remembered who she was at SummerSlam, goes over all of her attributes, and then confirms that she has a separated shoulder, and she had to go through 20 painful minutes until the ending of that match, but realized that she had become separated from reality. And she mentions building this to be the best the women's division has ever been. She gave her best. It was not good enough against Bianca Belair, but she will not be defined by a title because she defines the title. She won't be defined by any man because she defines the man. And thanks, Bianca, for pushing her over the past year, and calls out Bianca. She comes out and the two hug in the center of the ring, and Becky says she will see her soon as she makes her exit. And from there, Belair just said that she respects Becky Lynch despite their past issues and that Becky made her work for this title and she's ready for anyone. When we cut to the back, and there are our new trio of Bayley, Io Sky, and Dakota Kai attacking Becky with a chair wrapped around her arm and further attacking the injured arm. Belair runs to the back to her aid, and they later announce that Becky Lynch will be out for several months as a result of this injury. So a legitimate injury that she sustained in the match on Sunday, and that's definitely a blow when you've just added, this Raw women's division is just cooking at this point with the talent that they have. But unfortunately here with Becky will not be part of it, at least for the short term.
Yeah, it definitely is unfortunate. Like, I feel like Becky turning babyface, like this is probably like this dynamic of her and Ronda, like now actually being in the roles that I think will best suit them both is like kind of funny. Like, and I think that Becky was like gonna be on this like very upwards trajectory going forward as like the number 2 babyface under Bianca Belair on Raw, and it definitely is unfortunate. But honestly, I think sort of her being away for a little bit and like letting the crowd sort of miss her and stuff is going to all play out, man. I think it's going to help when time comes that she does come back.
Yeah, and we'll await kind of the extent of the injury. Like, hopefully, it's nothing that requires surgery or anything, because that could prolong things. But do you like the direction now that they're both in these roles? Becky and Ronda, like that looked to be the plan for Mania, and now they're in the roles I think they should be.
Yes, now it makes more sense, because I like Ronda is a baby. Like, and you want to know what's funny, John? Ronda, I don't know if she does them anymore, but she used to do these little it's like little gaming streams, and I would like cover them on the site, because usually she'd say some stuff that would be like notable, like we're covering. So I would like throw something up. But like I remember one time she had said that that when she initially came back to WWE, like she wanted to be a heel, like because she felt like it didn't make sense for her to come back as a babyface, seeing as how she was essentially booed in the final stages of that first run. So she felt like it wouldn't make no sense for her to come back and be like this pandering baby face to the crowd and like, oh my gosh, I'm so glad to be back. And her point actually makes sense. So like now that she's going to be sliding into this heel role, like it kind of makes me like, not necessarily worried for Liv's title run, but like I think her title run is probably going to be numbered. Like I probably at Clash of the Castle, to be honest with you, if they run that back. But yeah, I like her in that role, and I like Becky as a baby face and bringing back the whole man thing. I think it's going to work out well. And of course, that eventual, if it is to happen, that clash at WrestleMania 39 next year.
And on the Raw side, I mean, it looks like Bianca Belair just has a huge lineup of opponents to go through, and it looks like they're going to take their time with them. Like, I wasn't crazy about the non-finish with Io Sky, but I think they just want to prolong this as much as possible. But she's got beyond those three, you have Asuka and Alexa in the mix as well. Like there's plenty of options of where you can go. Rhea Ripley, that they're kind of keeping off to the side as well from this division. It's very loaded on the Raw side, and it makes you wonder what we'll see on SmackDown.
Hey, I wanted to ask you, like, do you think that, like, I mean, of course, it's only one, and we specifically referring to Dakota Kai in terms of like people who were a part of Triple H's NXT, the one that majority of people were very fond of. But like, can you see like anybody else, like specifically on the women's side, like that was part of that maybe you could see coming back, like maybe like a Candice LeRae or Tegan Knox or like anybody along those lines that you could see sort of being slided back into WWE's women's division now that Triple H is leading the creative?
Well, I mean, by the end of Raw, when they were teeing up next week's show in Cleveland, I was already seeing the tweets of people like looking at that for Johnny Gargano and such. I mean, it's all kind of I would say possible now. Like I think there's only, like, of all that talent that was cut, there's only so many spots that are out there in other companies for these talents to go to. And if you're looking to kind of fortify some of your divisions, I think WWE becomes a renewed option. I think a lot of these performers, they'd like to be in WWE. I don't think any of them, some, when they're cut, it's great. It's, a brand new world for them. For others, it's, they had no issues in WWE. So I certainly feel like there's way more talent out there than there are full-time positions available for. And in WWE, maybe like some new spots open up. And I think certainly there's that potential of other names coming back. Just as like a shot in the arm for some of these divisions. Like, look at what Dakota Kai and a call-up of Io Shirai meant on Sunday. And suddenly this Raw women's division, it's got a totally different feel to it, just with the addition of those two and Bayley coming back instantly.
It's something fresh, man, and it's something new. And I think that's what this show has needed for a long time. And especially considering if it's going to, I don't see this show ever not being 3 hours at this point. Like, I think it's just going to stay that way. But like, if you're going to do that, like, keep bringing the fresh people in, man. And the crowd, like I feel like specifically with some of these main roster, I don't want to call them main roster crowds, but like crowds that normally go to these WWE like Raw or SmackDown shows. I feel like they're like sort of habits in terms of watching the show might have to get like altered just a little bit, like because I feel like Triple H's vision of pro wrestling is far completely different than Vince McMahon. So I think it's gonna be like a lot more wrestling oriented, and then on top of that, you might see a lot of new faces coming in. So
I mean, like, just look at the matches we got tonight. Like this was a concerted effort of putting together more quality matches on this show. Like there was, with due respect, there was no sign of Omos on this show anywhere. But I mean,
Uncle Nate ain't gonna be happy about that Omos slander.
He might not. But seriously, like you look what they built the third hour around. Like you had the Usos and the Mysterios, Champa against AJ, Bianca Belair against Io Sky. Yeah. And it extends it, like you got a Rollins Montez Ford match, the triple threat matches. Like this certainly felt like there was more of an emphasis on putting like quality matches together on this Raw. Yeah. So then we had this video package on the history of the United States Championship narrated by JBL. And we get clips of Dusty, Harley Race, Slaughter, Piper, Flair, Brett, all these other past United States champions, and then cutting to Bobby Lashley as the one who holds the title now. This might have been more emphasis they put on the United States Championship than any time in WWE's time of promoting this title. Like all of a sudden, it's like, okay, let's put like an ounce of focus on this secondary championship. I mean, this was glaring at the beginning.
Yeah, no, I definitely liked it, and I mean, like it's like simple stuff like this that will make people care. And like I always say this about like most, if not all, things in pro wrestling. If you make your audience care, I promise you they'll care. If you put just a big enough emphasis on it, it will feel important. If you don't make it feel that way, then people won't care. It's like that simple.
This was great. It was just a great, simple idea to make. Hey, this title's important. Lots of important people have held it, and now we have a dominant champion, and we're going to build our show around figuring out who's the guy that's going to challenge for this title. Like it was very simple and very effective, I thought. Recap of The Miz and Logan Paul, and then Logan Paul does a video saying that it's the coolest thing he's ever done. He's addicted to this sport, and he wants more, but he doesn't know where or when, but it will be massive when he returns. Maybe Jake Paul's going to say the same thing. He doesn't know when he'll be back to box because his fight is no longer happening this Saturday, but it'll be big when it happens. But so more of Logan Paul, and I guess the question will be if they put him on that Wales show, like that's a pretty big show, and I think we're going to expect to see Logan Paul at, not every pay-per-view, but I think like the big ones.
Yeah, damn sure Logan Paul ain't going to be working damn Paducah, Kentucky, having house shows on Saturday. He definitely gonna be on those big shows though. But I mean, no, in all honesty, John, like no bullshit, I think Logan Paul did a great job on.
He did a very good job. Saturday. Like everyone was raving about him, and that was a crowd that was not behind this guy throughout that match, but he won them over like throughout that match. And by the end, with that frog splash through the table, it was like that crowd, they were like, listen, okay, we weren't in on this guy, but he worked his ass off, and he got a lot of deserved praise for Saturday's match. And on his podcast,
go ahead.
I was just going to mention that tomorrow on his podcast, he will have Triple H on, which is a really interesting interview, depending on what territory they go into, and what, like, Triple H is very smart at what he puts out there and what he withholds, and we'll see what kind of an interviewer Logan Paul is, because I will admit I have never listened to Logan Paul's podcast, but I guess I will have to listen to this one.
I think we might have a couple articles hitting the site tomorrow, Joe Poe.
Look at that, Andrew.
We got some stuff on the site tomorrow, man. Of course,
look out for Andrew Thompson, folks. He's on top of this stuff.
And do you think it's gonna be one of those, like, do you think he's gonna ask like sort of the questions that people want to, like, because like for Triple H, he hasn't really, I mean, he's done interviews, like I know he did one with I think he did like an interview with The Athletic, I believe, but I'm curious as to as Logan Paul will like ask him like his thoughts about like NXT getting switched around and stuff like that, or do you think it'll be more so of like a generic, not WWE style interview, but more so like
the comparison would be the Pat McAfee one with Vince McMahon.
There we go.
And
there we go.
I've never heard Logan Paul do an interview, so I don't want to go in with like a preconceived notion of like what kind of an interviewer he's going to be. But my gut instinct would be that here's a guy who's effectively his boss is coming in, and I don't know if we're going to get like the most. I don't think he's necessarily going to want to have this guy on to feel uncomfortable. So we'll see. We'll see. Like, obviously he could, what I like about these types of interviews is that typically the subject is more relaxed and sometimes like Vince just starts going on that interview. Mm. He's not getting any hardballs from Pat McAfee, but he was relaxed. Yeah. And we'll see. There's obviously plenty that you could ask of Triple H. We'll see how much he's willing to divulge with Logan Paul. AJ Styles, The Miz, and Mustafa Ali. This is our first of 2 triple threat matches, and then the 2 winners would face later in the show to determine who gets the next crack at Bobby Lashley. And The Miz has his taped ribs. This crowd, man, they were getting into these tiny balls chants, which sadly is getting over with the crowd. Ali missed a 450 and then got hit with a Ushigoroshi from AJ. Ali hit this beautiful looking tornado DDT off the turnbuckle to AJ on the floor, and they showed a replay with this low angle shot from the floor. It looked incredible. Ali climbs into the ring. He's caught with the skull crushing finale, but Miz crawls over and he can't get the 3 count. And the finish comes as Ali hits a 450 onto Miz, and then he bounces off of the body into AJ's Styles Clash, and AJ hits a Styles Clash, dropping Ali onto the injured ribs of the Miz. This finish was friggin' awesome. Beautiful. And AJ pins Ali in 8:51. This, like, whoever structured this finish deserved the bonus. This was an excellent finish. Really strong. I thought at certain parts of this show, like, the crowd just was not into some of these matches. They really had to work to get this crowd going. But yeah. I thought this was a really entertaining match and a tremendous ending.
Yeah, I liked it a lot. I'm excited to see, like, like the Mustafa Ali's and the Cedric Alexanders and, people like Shelton Benjamin and a Ricochet and people who are really known for those.
Dude, like Ricochet. Could you imagine Ricochet as he got this news last Monday? I mean, this guy's in the witness protection program in WWE. It's like this guy can't buy television time.
But like, I'm excited to see like people like that get more TV time. I wasn't surprised to see Ali take the pin. I definitely don't think Miz was going to take it, like especially coming off his loss to Logan Paul, and then I feel like AJ was, like, when I saw this the match graphic, I feel like AJ was going to be the best option to win the match, and I definitely love the finish, man. And I feel like everybody had their like individual times to shine throughout it, and I feel like they put on a really solid match to sort of kick off this new era, if you will, of WWE TV.
Becky was in the trainer's room. They were icing her arm, or she was just asking for ice, and that would be the last we would see of Becky. And then Bayley, Dakota, and Io, they speak with Sarah Schreiber and said, it's not about Becky or Bianca, it's about us, and you'll see soon enough. And then they walk past the Usos, who are interviewed as well. They feel that they're going to beat the Prophets again, they did beat the Prophets again, just like Roman beat Brock again, and we're going to beat the Mysterios again tonight.
Hey, John, you want to know something I really do like about for in all honesty, both Triple H and Tony Khan's sort of style of booking is that when it comes to like pairing people together, they do, both of them do like a really like decent job of like putting these people together that you probably wouldn't think go well, and then like once you see them like in the mix, like they go like really well. Like Io, Dakota, and Bayley. Like if you would have said that pre SummerSlam, I'd have just been like how does that even like what does that look like? Like how do they feed off of each other? But like now that I'm seeing it like in live action, like they actually work like as a trio, like they really do. And even with like I know like just a random team to throw out there from AEW, like Caster and Bowens, like they weren't a team, you know what I'm saying? They just got put together, and now look at, I think they one of the most entertaining acts on weekly AEW television. So I feel like both of them, they do like a real like decent job of like putting these people together. And I'm really interested to see more of that on WWE side, to be honest with you, because I feel like you have people that can really benefit off of being paired with another individual, and all it takes is just to find that right formula. So I think we're going to be seeing more of like the Bayley, Io, and Dakota pairings, in the coming weeks and stuff like that.
Yeah, I think so far so good. Like, 2 nights in, I think it's been a very positive pairing, and they're in prominent spots on Raw right out of the get-go. So your audience is taking them very seriously as a group. Then Seth Rollins comes out. He says we can celebrate because there's no Riddle. He too is on the shelf with a career-threatening injury, just like Randy Orton. And now he can turn his attention to Roman Reigns and the title. And the audience got excited by this name drop. But the Street Profits interrupt. Rollins calls them the biggest losers in WWE after their latest loss to the Usos and tells them to leave. But then they bring up the fact that they beat Rollins to become the Raw Tag Team Champions. And Ford says that you got your ass kicked by Cody with his one boobie. And Ford and Dawkins then set up a game of rock, paper, scissors to determine who's going to take on Seth Rollins. But Ford just grabs the ref mid-game and just takes the match, steals it away from Dawkins here.
Oh, man.
The seeds are being planted, Andrew.
Oh no! John, don't tell me you one of those.
You do not take a man's ability to play rock, paper, scissors mid-game with him. That's a heel maneuver right there. A heel tactic.
Hey, John, in all seriousness though, like I get what people are like. So that they see. I see it too in Montez Ford, but the thing is like normally. Okay, so if you would have threw this, if this whole Street Profits like. This whole idea about them splitting up or like going in separate ways or you know whatever one being pushed over the other pre Triple H I'd have been like I don't like I do not think that's a good idea because I think what was going to happen like if he hasn't come in was Montez Ford would be the one that would get spotlighted. Angelo Dawkins would sort of fall to the wayside a little bit. There is like a little bit of hope, like if they are to go full Montez Ford, that I think that Angelo Dawkins will still be doing something. But honestly, in terms of that team,
I'm like pretty high on Dawkins. Like I think this guy
that's what I'm saying. I like
he's
Dawkins
really
too.
upped his game these last couple of months. I think that he is not someone that I'm looking at as like this group breaking up is going to be the downfall of this character. Yes. And you're right. I think with this, you know, with this history, like I think he will get. Let's put it this way: he's going to get a real opportunity to fail or succeed. I don't think it's going to be a case of this team's broken up and he's just off to the wayside and forgotten about. Like he has pulled his weight in all of these matches, and I don't think it's going to be this negative impact on Dawkins if they do in fact do the split.
And I said this a couple of weeks ago on the podcast I was doing. I was just like this idea that like Dawkins like is like the behind man in this whole situation. I'm like, have y'all seen this dude? What he's been doing in the ring for like the past several months or so? Like Dawkins is like showing up, and he always has been showing up. But I feel like specifically now, like with all the talk about Montez Ford, it's sort of like motivated him in a way, like internally. And I do feel like if they were to go the route of maybe the Street Profits, like honestly, I would prefer them to do what the New Day do. Like they can go their own separate ways while still being a connected unit. And that way you can sort of still swap in the tag and single stuff. But yeah, man, people will stop sleeping on Dawkins, man. I'm telling you, because he can hold his own too. But I definitely see what people talking about with Montez Ford. And then you got The Rock endorsing him and all that stuff. So, you know.
There's a lot of pressure on Montez Ford. Like it just seems like everyone's anointed him. And then like that's like you're still going from like a tag wrestler to jumping into a singles act. Like it's not an overnight transition, and it just seems like a lot of people like they're already anointing him as a top star. That comes with a ton of pressure on it as well. But he had this match with Seth Rollins. They went 10.5 minutes here. They went to the floor where Ford stopped a pedigree, and then Ford's ribs were run into the post. He beats the count inside, and we see a high cross off the top by Ford, flying blockbuster, and gets away from the stomp and hits a spinning tornado DDT off the turnbuckle. Rollins gets his foot on the rope and lands a buckle bomb, Falcon Arrow. Ford kicks out of both of them, and Rollins misses a splash off the top, and the audience gets excited. This is Ford's chance. He goes for From the Heavens, lands on the knees, and Rollins follows with the stomp, pinning Ford in 10 minutes and 35 seconds. But they really tried to position Montez Ford as threatening Rollins, and Graves especially really put over Ford at the end here, that even in losing, he was this big threat to Seth Rollins, who they are obviously not beating right now with this Riddle program and maybe more beyond the next month.
You want to know what I think they probably going to try to do? I think when it comes time, like where there's a situation where like there's maybe like a 6-pack challenge or some along those lines, they'll slap Montez Ford in one of those positions and like let sort of the crowd like naturally get behind him and sort of let them boost him to that point. I think that's something if they are going to go this route, I feel like that's more like the the most natural thing to do is to let the crowd sort of push Montez forward towards that direction and not like do this like obvious like, hey, we're completely separating these guys type thing. But in terms of the match, I do think I think Montez Ford had a really good showing, and of course, you in there with Seth Rollins as well. So yeah, I thought it was a good showing for Montez, and I think that they should also allow Dawkins to have that same type of situation as well.
Rollins went for another stomp on Ford, but this time Dawkins runs in to save his partner, and that ended the segment. And we'll see if they revisit anything more. Like maybe they do this with Dawkins next week with Rollins. Yeah, if like Riddle's out, and then Riddle can come back in time for the Whale show to work with Rollins.
Yeah, I was just about to ask you that. You think that's the match for Clash of the Castle? Rollins.
I would. It seems like they're doing this, prolonged injury angle where he's out, can do the comeback on TV, and then that's a bigger match for that pay-per-view in about a month. Have you envisioned that weekend? How insane that's going to be that weekend?
Man, that's going to be. You want to know that for real, bro? That's going to be a fun weekend to cover. I'm looking forward to it. To be honest,
it's going to be a lot. The Clash, like the NXT show, weekends. All Out. It's that's going to be a just wild weekend. Alexa Bliss and Asuka. This was a short match. Asuka was in control, drilled Bliss with a knee strike, and then boom, Bayley, Kai, and Sky all run down, and the match gets thrown out in 2.5 minutes, and Bayley hits a running knee to Bliss. Kai then lays out Asuka, and Sky is going to the top with a moonsault, the chair, but Belair runs down, chases them away, and they lead to Belair issuing a challenge to any one of them, and Io Sky accepts it, and that is what we are going to get later. And then at 9:05 p.m., after 65 minutes, we got our first commercial break of Raw.
I see you're not a fan of this hour. I know you said earlier.
It wasn't terrible. It's not like it dragged. I think this was a pretty like intriguing episode of Raw, so I think people were naturally engaged. I don't need the commercial free as like a regular. Sometimes they go overboard with this stuff, but I do think it's going to help this first. I think this first hour will be like a very like highly watched hour of Raw.
Hey John, what do you think? Do you think Asuka's presentation is going to change now that it isn't like a new? Like I feel like that whole like her being like the goofy, the overly like dramatic type Asuka. I feel like that's like
I hope so. I hope so. It's such a caricature that I feel it's just so like nothing. And I mean, no one handled her better than that NXT run where like you could like she was headlining some of those takeovers by the end. Like she was tremendous, but I mean, she had to adjust her presentation on the main roster. And I hope that we get kind of like a much more dialed in Asuka, because, she would be a great asset on either show, and just kind of lacks, I would say, any significant identity right now. It's just sort of just like, it's just the silly promos that she does.
That streak that she had, man, I feel like that was it. I feel like it was a benefit to her, but also at the same time, like once that becomes like your identity, then once you lose it, it's like, what do you got? You know what I'm saying? So I'm definitely excited though to see like what Asuka's presentation is going to be like going forward though.
The next triple threat was Dolph Ziggler, Champa, and Chad Gable. Another really good match, I thought, here. Gable did a promo on the way to the ring that his brain is so big it's twice the size of Texas, and he's going to beat the ignoramus AJ Styles and then put this country on his back again, and he's not going to have to cheat like the Houston Astros. And this crowd was just livid at a very factual statement about their baseball team. I mean, come on, you can't argue here. I was thinking if Chad Gable won this, we might get a flat Earth reference from Chad Gable when he faces AJ, but that was not to be the case. Bryan Danielson resurrected that line this past week on his panel with Renee. That is going to be yeah. Did you watch the whole thing?
Nah, I saw like portions of it.
I saw like clips here and there. It was like the interesting story that he was telling was that the segment with the Miz, their idea going into it was that Miz was going to cut this scathing promo on him, and Danielson was going to just nail him, like actually punch him on the show. And the defense would be that Miz went so far that it was believable that Danielson would punch him, and then WWE could do two things. They could fire him, which Danielson seemed like he wanted to be fired at the time, or they clear him because everyone wants to see this match, because that was the source of his frustration, was not being cleared. But he said Miz was so good with the promo that he thought it'd be more effective to just walk off and leave Miz with his heat, which was probably, that did huge things for the Miz. I mean, that's probably the segment people are going to most associate with him when it comes to any segment he's been involved with. But yeah, that was the original idea that the two crafted up, was for Danielson to just punch him on the live broadcast with the idea of fire him or clear him.
They said that dynamic between Danielson and the Miz is always interesting. I know Danielson is like openly spoken about. Like, I mean, of course, you never truly know if he's being like, it is like leaning more to the. I mean, I don't see any reason for them like leaning to the story, but he has said that him and Miz, like, they don't necessarily like, they're not fond of each other, but they have like a respect for each other. And he's like said that multiple times, and Miz is like utter the same sentiments as well. So like that dynamic is like really interesting when you see two people that have openly said that they don't necessarily like one another, but they have that sort of mutual respect enough to work with each other on screen.
So back to the triple threat here. Gable and Champa are working together, and then Ziggler fights back. Champa slingshot Ziggler, takes this big post shot, and then Gable is wrestling with Champa. They go through the commercial break. Gable's got an ankle lock applied on Ziggler, and then Champa simultaneously applies a crossface at the same time. Champa then breaks Gable's ankle lock hold with a leaping Famouser, and we see a chaos theory onto Champa into a zigzag by Ziggler. Creative three-way spot here. Gable kicks out of that, and then Ziggler and Champa are pulling on each other's trunks. There's a super kick to Champa, and Gable sends Ziggler out, and Champa hits a knee strike that sends Ziggler off the apron. He lands a knee to Gable and the fairy tale ending, and Champa gets the win. And I don't think there's anyone happier with these changes than Champa, who all of a sudden this was like his most significant episode of Raw since he was called up back in April.
Hey, John, let me tell you something, man. If you were in NXT from 2016 to 2019 and you were a main player, you just hit the jackpot. I'm telling you, because that man is taking care of like anybody who was who has been like the
the four people that are still here at this point. I mean, it's like if you manage to stay with this company from that era, yeah, you're in great standing here. Samoa Joe would be like, man, of like all these chances.
Champa, like. I think Shinsuke gonna get a nice little run going forward. But yeah, I'm telling you, man, if you was part of that NXT, it's funny you say that, but it's not funny because most of those people did get released. But like if you was part of that era, man, you probably got a nice little presentation coming for you, as the weeks and months go on.
Yeah, for sure. And I mean, for some that have like gone on to like great spots, and others that have not, I mean, those are kind of in that pool where like that's kind of to me where you're going to be reevaluating talent that was cut that might not have been your call, and do we have a spot for you now? Like it might be It'll be very interesting to look what the roster makeup is of this company in 6 to 9 months as well. And people that are still here, people that are not, like whenever you get a significant change of this level, all talent is going to be under a spotlight, and it's like who transitions, who does not as well. Like there's going to be winners and losers whenever there's a regime change.
Hey John, I want to ask you, like, do you think anything's going to happen in NXT 2.0 in terms of the presentation, or you think it's going to stay the same? And like, do you think they're going to start bringing in like independent wrestlers again?
I think over time, I think we're going to see the talent. I do think we'll see more kind of an independent talent flavor to the show. But I don't think it's going to be overnight. It's not like you can just suddenly change like the roster composition there. But I think slowly it will, and I expect to see subtle changes with NXT 2.0. I don't think it's going to be overnight. It's just a different product next week. But yeah, to answer the question, I do think they'll have a much more open view of who can be stars and thus who we bring into our system. Like it's fine to go and recruit these athletes, but I think you also want to be paying attention to the people that have been out there, that have been doing this for years, that historically over these last 10 years have kind of had the most success of going through this pipeline to your main roster. Guys like your Kevin Owens, and I mean, you can just go through guys that they have performed, they've been over, and they come in, and it's like they understand this industry. You don't have to teach this from scratch that others do. Yeah. So Ciampa gets the win. He will face AJ later on in the show, and that brings out Edge out to his old theme, old entrance. He's introduced as the Rated R Superstar. This was just like retconning the whole mountain of omnipotence, which was nowhere to be found here. This is just right back to, this was as much of like, hey, let's just forget the last 3 months.
Right.
As Edge just thanks Houston for that reaction. I've been a bit of an asshole for the past few months, but now we both get what we want. He created the Judgment Day to help underutilized talent and pass on his knowledge, and says we were just getting started. It's like, yeah, it was, I don't know. And he says that their judgment got clouded, and Ripley and Damian Priest thought they learned all they needed, but I never saw it coming with Finn Balor. Now it's time to kill what I created, and he will end the Judgment Day. So here it is.
Hey John, that whole split, like, and them abandoning Edge for Balor was like so dumb, because like the pay-per-view before that, didn't Edge pin Balor to win the match?
Night before he did. This was terrible evaluation by Damian Priest and Rhea Ripley. They recruited the guy that took the loss.
Right.
Made no sense.
Bro, like I know, but I saw that, I was like, that's stupid though, because like y'all literally just beat this team last night, and you swapping the dude that got beat, not a leader of the group, and the leader of the group is the dead weight. So it really didn't make any sense. And honestly, bro, I think that group was like floundering a little bit. Like, even when Edge was still like, it never seemed like it had like that much steam behind it. Like, it seemed like it was kind of just floating and going nowhere.
I honestly believe, like, of Edge's entire history in WWE, I don't think there's something that's been less successful than the Judgment Day that he's been attached to. Like, to me, it was just not clicking.
I would say, when I'm thinking about it, like, it's hard to think about like what compares like to that in terms of like things that just did not click. Like, so yeah, I'm definitely gonna part with you on that one. Like, I can't think of nothing off the top of my head.
The Mysterios are in the locker room, and they state that the Judgment Day are now in the rear view. Now they have to deal with Edge. And Ray brings up his history with Edge, winning the tag titles, and thanks him for his help at SummerSlam. There were highlights of the tryouts over the last week in Nashville, and mentioning Dwight Howard showing up. What'd you think of Dwight Howard's promo?
Enthusiastic. There you go. Yes. Say him a compliment. Enthusiastic.
See, everyone was going wild over this promo, and I feel like, especially when it's just like people that are maybe just following this at a certain level, it's like, if you can put words together, they were going like, these people are doing like somersaults over this guy's promo. I'm like, yeah, okay, he's got like a good delivery. This is fine, but let's not stop the presses here about, like, you know, the second coming here of like Dusty Rhodes graced us with his presence at the Nashville tryouts. It's like, okay, he's enthusiastic. That's a good description of this promo. I think this guy, I think he's hoping for that contract offer, not from WWE. I think from whether it be the Lakers, anyone.
He did say that if he isn't, he wants to play in the NBA. I know he did I think it was with Arash Markazi that he did a post crowd interview with, and he was like, he wants to play in the NBA like next year. Like, this upcoming season. But if he can't get a contract, then, you know, he's looking at WWE. Like, I'm gonna be real with you. Like, I don't know where Dwight Howard fits in like into the WWE product, but, you know, hey.
This was a good tie-in just to have him show up, and it got some press for these tryouts, and it was like some free PR the week of SummerSlam. So from that strategic standpoint, I mean, it was a win for them just to have, you know, a well-known athlete show up at one of these tryouts. But beyond that, I don't know how much we'll be seeing of Dwight Howard in the future.
24/7 championship making a comeback with Dwight Howard. You know
what? This title's gone missing. This 24/7 title's gone missing. So gone. I mean, listen, we're going to notice the things that are not popping up as much as people and ideas that are. Then Schreiber's with Bailey, Kai, and Sky again. We need a name. We do need a name for this group. I can't just say Bailey, Kai, and Sky all over the time. We need a name for them.
I saw people was like dubbing them Control, because that's what Bailey put on Twitter.
Okay.
Like, the Control is like, I don't think it's like official, but like that's the name that Bailey had used on Twitter. So maybe that's the one. Control.
Bailey says that these idiots have been on a downward spiral since she left, and Dakota Kai says they know how to play the game, and soon Oh, and then they ended here by saying soon we will be in full control. So that would that would lead to probably where things are going. So there you have it, control. Bianca Belair, Io Sky in capital letters for people out there for the WWE style guide. Early on, Io hit a Asai moonsault. That set up the commercial break. Belair hit a big fall-away slam, handspring moonsault for a 2 count. And then we saw Belair in control here. She goes for a German off of the apron, but it's blocked. And she catches Sky, swings her into the barricade. And then Bayley and Kai are ringside. They sit on the apron, preventing Belair from tossing Sky back into the ring. This prompts Alexa Bliss and Asuka to come down. We get a second commercial break. And now Sky's in control, double knees into the corner, and slams Belair. And there's a handspring moonsault landing on the knees. Bayley trips Belair from the floor, and Sky tries to use the rope for leverage. Bliss knocks her foot off, and then Asuka and Bliss walk into the ring with Bayley and Kai. They get into a big brawl, and the match gets thrown out. This was like a 2-segment. They were on the 3rd segment of this. So my rule, Andrew, is if you're going to do like a bullshit finish, it's like once you go after like 15 minutes, it's like at that point you're testing my limits here. But a nice match that the two had, but obviously they did not want to beat either one of these two, and we just had the non-finish at the end. So, I mean, prolonging the feud, which they should be.
Yeah, I mean, when I first saw it, I was like, I feel like you should have a champion, come out, strong always. But at the same time, I get it. Like why would you be Io Shirai so early? And then at the same time, why would you even have Io be Bianca? Like it just so early, like it really doesn't make sense. But then you can also throw out the argument, well, why do the match then if you're not gonna have a decisive finish? But I at the same time, I do get it. Do you think that if Becky hadn't been injured, it would have been Becky, Bianca, and Asuka as that trio that would have been like instead of Alexa Bliss?
Yeah, I would have to think that Becky would have been involved in this pretty heavily. You would have to think. Yeah. So So, I don't know like who that third becomes, if it's like Alexa Bliss that gets promoted to this role or Asuka, but yeah, that's sort of the backup that Belair has at the moment. But yeah, you would have to have assumed Becky would have been heavily involved in all of this, and it's unfortunate because she as well had a whole new slate of matches with people like her and Io, her and Dakota, like her and Bayley again. Like there's tons of different options. So, I mean, hopefully Becky's not out too long. And when she comes back, like that's another injection into this whole Raw women's division. That's pretty intriguing right now.
Yeah, but I was say I did think Io and Bianca, they had like a real solid showing in terms of like that. I don't think it's their first time wrestling in terms of like I think it's probably like what early singles matches between the two. Like I think maybe they did probably like 1 or 2 or 3, but like it was like a solid showing for them, and I'm interested to see what they do going forward between those two. I think there's gonna be something along the lines of Bianca sort of making the rounds within the group before.
Oh, we're doing so well here on Andrew's. Are we back, Andrew?
Yeah, we back.
We're all good. All right, cool.
Okay.
You were stating there. What was your last thought there?
Oh, we here? Are we good?
Yes, we're good. I can hear you now. Okay.
Okay, cool. Oh man, you said they tried to take me down. It's the chat. I'm blaming the chat. They trying to take me out.
Blame those people in the comments. Though I've been seeing a lot of compliments here for Andrew. That along with this the spam that we have to be monitoring here in the comments. If you do send in a super chat, I will be getting to those at the end, so you can get those super chats in.
Maybe I say just to wrap up that last one, I think that I think Bianca's going to make it the rounds in the group. Like I think she'll have a decisive match with Io at some point. She'll go to Dakota, and then eventually they'll have the match that they was with Bayley that they were supposed to have. What was that? Money in the Bank 2021. I think that's supposed to be like an I Quit match or something like that. But I think they'll do something more traditional style this time, this go around. But I definitely think the next person that's going to challenge Bianca for that title is going to be Bayley.
Yeah, I think that would be the logical one, and perhaps you're just going to see Bianca like go through the others. Like, it would be quick to go through the other two just on television, but certainly I think that's going to be those three that you can space those out. You can do a lot of those matches and then do something big in Cardiff next month. A lot of different options that I think they have at their disposal. Miz is with Champa in the back and goes over all the past U.S. champions and calls Logan Paul an entitled YouTuber. and that AJ blindsided Champa and secured a tainted win for Logan Paul. And Champa used to respect AJ, but now he chose to support a social media influencer, and Champa no longer has any respect for AJ Styles. Miz says Champa might not have helped me beat Logan Paul, but Champa will be the next United States champion. So a bit of a subtle line in there about Miz and Champa not helping him beat Logan Paul. And AJ and Champa had their match with Booker T brought out for commentary as they were in Houston and introduced as a former United States champion. So they were really going overtime to emphasize this United States championship as an important title, which is, if they had this mindset a long time ago, having your two main titles consolidated, you would have had, a flourishing kind of secondary title that everyone could have been saying, hey, that's the next biggest prize to go for.
So simple and so effective, John Pollock. So simple and so effective.
That's what I hope the new motto of this company is.
So like, I think you probably are the same belief as I am, but like, dude, I think Bobby Lashley has been on like a run. I'm talking about with these fans. Do you hear these people like reacting to Lashley? They love this dude. So I'm thinking like, okay, he really is over right now. So like, do you want to take the United States title off him because that could quote unquote hurt him? But at the same time, I'm like, I wouldn't mind seeing Lashley with one of those titles. To be honest with you, I wouldn't mind seeing him in the world title scene or in the mix with one of those, or even hold one of those. But at the same time, I feel like Lashley is like so over right now, and the crowd is like naturally behind him. Like this wasn't like some contrived thing. Like I feel like the people, they just got behind Lashley, and like they like really behind him. So like I'm like interested to see what they. I don't think they will. I don't think that Ciampa's going to beat him next week, but I think that there are greater things ahead for Bobby Lashley if his trajectory is telling me anything over the past several months that he's had.
Yeah, I like him in this role right now. Like, I think he's the guy to, if you're serious about establishing this U.S. title, like put it on a guy that people perceive as a big deal, with which Bobby feels like right now. I think he's done exceptionally well transitioning to, number one, a babyface role. He doesn't have MVP by his side anymore, and he's really, to me that pairing has been tremendous for Bobby Lashley's career in TNA and WWE. Yeah. But he's doing very well on his own now without having a mouthpiece where he's got to do the promos. So I think that they want to make this title feel very important, and you're going to put it on a guy that they see as the real deal that is going to establish this belt for the time being. So I'm about to
say I can see something along the lines of Miz inadvertently costing Champa this match, and then that is how we eventually get the Champa going solo, and then bringing back sort of that NXT-esque presentation that he had, and sort of being like doing that whole sort of thing, or bringing back certain aspects of that character that he portrayed in NXT, and that'd be a way to sort of separate Champa from the Miz.
Yeah, because I certainly read into that one subtle line that the Miz had in there that you probably are thinking. And they're also in Cleveland next week, which is Miz's hometown. So maybe they are Miz is going to be super popular next week, and we will see what they do there. So AJ and Champa, we had AJ selling his shoulder from earlier, so Champa slides it into the post, and Styles is fighting back. We see Champa stop a Styles clash and lowers the knee pad, misses, and Styles goes for the Styles clash again, and it's blocked. And then we see Champa land this flying knee as Styles goes for the phenomenal forearm, and they showed a slow motion replay from the hard cam, and this thing looked incredible. Yeah. I mean, he just this looked snug. Champa brought out Project Champa for another 2 count, and then sets up for an air raid crash that is turned into the Styles clash, but they're by the rope where Miz places Ciampa's foot onto the bottom rope, saving him. Styles then decks the Miz, and this gives Ciampa the ability to attack him from behind on the floor, toss him into the timekeeper's area, and with Miz holding on to AJ's leg, he nearly gets counted out. I just could imagine like the House of Torture taking notes here for future G1 finishes here with this count out tease. But AJ makes it back, but as he rolls into the ring, he's immediately met with a knee and the fairy tale ending as Champa gets the win. And there's no one that has been a greater beneficiary, I think, of this turnover than Champa, who went from the guy just hanging out with the Miz in the background, and now all of a sudden, he gets 2 big wins on Raw and a title match next week in Cleveland against Bobby Lashley. But I thought another good match on this show.
Yeah, this was really good. I feel like Champa and AJ were real together, and like just to repeat what both of us said earlier, man. Like if you was part of it, if you was a top person in that prime NXT era, you just hit the jackpot, buddy. Like you definitely about to have some star making moments. But I am really interested to see what they're gonna do. Like knowing how Triple H views and Champa just based off like how he was presented in NXT, like. I mean, like, and that makes it even more the intriguing part because, like, you got a guy like Bobby Lashley who's really over, and then at the same time, you got a guy like Champa who is highly regarded by the person who's leading the creative of the show. So it's going to be interesting to see what they're going to do. But I'm putting my money on Bobby Lashley retaining the title. I think Lashley's doing a great job right now. I think they're going to sort of take away that momentum from him.
I think it'll be really notable, like the placement on the show next week. Like it'll probably be in a prime spot on the show. Yeah. And I expect them to get some time as well. Like I don't think this is going to be, like if this was a month ago, you'd be thinking Bobby Lashley and Ciampa are going to probably get 4 to 5 minutes with Bobby killing this guy.
Yeah, Lashley killing them.
Like they're going to get like 2 segments minimum, I think, on the show next week. And, they obviously, like, part of tonight was establishing this U.S. title as like a really important title. And I think that's to set up next week, like make it feel really important. So that'll be something to look for next week. Kevin Patrick interviewed Bobby Lashley, and he just said he'll defend this title every week if he has to, puts over Ciampa as being dangerous, and he's going to bring respect back to this title. Basically said, no one cares about this title, but we've got our work to cut out for us, and I'm the man to lead the charge.
Bro, it's crazy because Lashley earlier this year he's at a 75% torn rotator cuff and his labrum was torn, and like dude, for him like not to have surgery, that is insane. So he still has a torn labrum, basically, right?
Dude, labrums just don't like reattach themselves. Yeah, like. And think of it, like I'm not bringing this up as like a joke, but it's like he missed all those weeks, and then he came back to do a feud with like Omos. It's like, dude, it's like those are tough matches just with someone that like you've got to lead the way with, and you're dealing with an injury of that significance. I mean, it's rather remarkable that like you watch him and it like he has not felt too like compromised with his style either that he's been working with as well.
He's still doing those like military press suplexes, like we deadlifts him like in the air with one hand and with one arm and stuff like that. Like Lashley different, man. That's a different dude right there, man.
Well, that's what Adam Cole was. Adam Cole was working with a torn labrum as well. It's like that's Dax a tough injury to work around. Yeah, that's right with Dax as well. So I mean, someone's got the secret out there of how to like work around these injuries. Yeah. Then throughout the show, they're mentioning like stay tuned for this extra exclusive footage after SummerSlam went off the air. So we get the exclusive footage, Andrew, of Brock Lesnar re-entering the messed up ring, and he salutes the crowd with his hat. And we there we go. Breaking news.
Exclusive footage that has circulated on Twitter right after SummerSlam.
Yeah, exclusive. Yes. Man.
Hey, when do you think the next time we're going to see Brock?
I'm guessing, just a pure guess, I imagine like the Saudi Arabia show in November. That would be my guess.
Yeah. I forgot all about that. That's a good call.
Yeah, I don't think Brock is missing the Saudi Arabia show. So that's I think it's like November 5th, something around that. So yeah. The question will be what you do with him when he comes back. Like I think you've got to move on from this Roman stuff at this point. You need something new with Brock, and I don't know who that is, but you got to, in theory, if you're setting this up for November, like you have time to like really build up an opponent for Brock that he can come back to. Someone fresh, hopefully.
You had just like when you talking about Brock, I was thinking about the SummerSlam match. No theory on this show. No mention.
There was no theory. They didn't even bring up like the teased cash in or anything like that. I did find that notable that they kept theory off this week.
You think you have a failed cash in?
I don't think there's any chance he's cashing it in on Roman, but I also feel like there's like your option would be like Drew, and yeah,
no. At the Carter show, oh no, please don't.
See that would be the option you would make if it was like, oh man, imagine the heat. We're gonna make all these people so happy, and then we're gonna make them so unhappy. And that's going to be how they leave the show feeling unhappy. Like, why did I put myself through that? I think there's a fairly decent shot of him having a failed cash in. Yeah. At least as long as the belts are, consolidated as they are now.
Now, see that idea. I don't know why, like, that idea came to my head, but like, I'm not ruling. I mean, I can't see it happening, but like, I don't want to like completely rule it out. Like the idea of this dude like cashing in like with Drew McIntyre like post Clash of the Cat. Like,
let me put it this way: I think like a cash in now, I think would be met very negatively, and I think they very much don't want to do things that are just going to be. It's almost like it's heat against the company instead of heat on the performer. And I think they just don't want, because that character of Theory is so tied to Vince McMahon that I think, he kind of becomes just a victim of that, of everyone looking at him as like this Vince McMahon project, whether that's fair or not. And maybe the idea is like, we just keep him in it like a background role. He can have this briefcase, and then like in the spring we do something with him or something like that and put it off. Like, I don't think they're going to be writing off Theory as like a character. I just don't know if now is the time that you're looking to catapult this guy into a main event position, because I think that would be met negatively and not in a good kind of like heel heat type of way.
While we on sort of on the topic of Clash of the Castle, would you put the title on Drew like in Roman's reign, or would you have like, you think it would be smarter to maybe add in the sort of the loophole of Drew is challenging for one of the titles and not both of the titles? Like maybe gets the WWE Championship and the Universal Championship isn't on the line, or like I mean they are one joint championship now, I believe. Like, so it's like I mean because you got this Cardiff crowd, and I mean Drew's from Scotland. But I mean, like they're backing this
on September 3rd. He's from Cardiff, Wales. Okay, that's pretty much how they're planning this one, Andrew. Okay, he's through and through. He's Welsh. I mean, the guy lives in Nashville, and he wasn't even like booked on the card on Saturday. So I don't know this guy's roots. I think it's really tough to do that, where it's like, okay, one belt's on the line, but one isn't. Yeah. If you're asking me today, I think Drew has to win this one on next month. And I don't think that disqualifies it, that you can get it back on Reigns, like at the Royal Rumble or something. If you have a big Mania match planned for Roman, if you want to do Roman and Cody, like that's a huge match for the title down the road. But for that day, for that crowd, I think you do go ahead and do the title change. Like, I don't know if there's more you can get out of this Roman reign at this point beyond just adding numbers to it. You've maximized it to me of the length of it. That I think it's a huge moment for that show. But I think you also, like, you have your work over the next month to really heat up Drew, because, he's lost some steam over the past 2 years, but your next month, you can build this up to feel like this is a real challenger for Roman.
You want to know what's funny, Joe? Because I remember me and you did the Daily News show. This was a couple months ago, and I remember me and you had this exact same conversation about like Drew McIntyre, like what they could do to like really heat him up for like a world title run. I mean, like, you got like 4 weeks to do this, to get Drew McIntyre ready. Like, I don't know exactly like what you can do, but like just make him a big deal, man, and like keep putting, like, in all honesty, I don't even think you need to have him like wrestle that often. Like, I feel like if you just have Drew come out there, man, and just speak passionately and like let him do his thing and like let him get the crowd to rally behind him and let it feel natural, then it'll
do some like some really like great like documentary type of like video features. Like, go tell the whole story about him being fired and coming back. He won the title in front of no one. Now he gets a chance to win the title in front of 60,000 people. There you go. It's like there's a great story there. Yeah, you can do a very simple but super effective build for Drew, and I think like he's the guy that you could do this title switch with next month.
Hey man, but when Cody come back, good luck, buddy.
Yeah. I mean, it's a good problem to have if you have, several guys that are over at that level. Like at a certain point, it was like, man, they were starved for anyone that could be, discussed in a kind of tier. So, I mean, it's a good problem to have if you have Drew as like another major guy on top. Main event time here on Raw was the Usos against the Mysterios for the undisputed tag titles. We see them get the heat on Ray, who eventually makes the hot tag to Dominic. Jimmy avoids a 619, and the Usos catch Dominic on a pescado attempt, run him into the post. They go through 2 commercial breaks. Ray and Jay are the legal men, and Ray is just going wild here. Goes for a reverse crossbody, lands into a super kick by Jay. They stop the 1D attempt, and then there's a double 619 to Jimmy. Dominic hits the frog splash, and man, this crowd was on fire at this point with the tease of the title change and Jay making the save. Dominic then goes for a suicide dive. He nearly overshoots Jay on the floor. And then Jimmy stops Dominic on the turnbuckle, and it leads to Jimmy being knocked down. Dominic lands a drop kick, and then there's the blind tag by Jay, and they confuse Dom, who turns around into the 1D, and Dominic takes the fall in 15 minutes and 49 seconds. Afterward, the Judgment Day are back from the rearview mirror and into the windshield. It's the attack on the Mysterios, and Rhea Ripley's in the corner. She puts an inverted triangle onto Dominic, who's just screaming.
I love it.
Dude, it's like they are building like this Rhea Ripley Dominic match down the road, it feels like. So then Edge makes the big save. He sends Damian out of the ring, hits the Impaler DDT on Balor, and then he sets up for the spear to Finn Balor. And Rhea Ripley, at the last second, shoves Dominic in front, and Balor moves off. So Edge, whose head is down as he's in like spear mode, spears Dominic. This sounds totally goofy. They timed it so well. And Dominic sold it like he was dead from this spear. You've got Ray and the medical staff checking on Dominic. Edge has chased off the Judgment Day, so he's left. Ray is nearly in tears. My son, who took the spear. And that's how the show ends. But I thought the spear at the end, like this was like, they pulled off the spot really well. And now Dominic he's got all the fuel in the world. Screw my dad. Screw Edge. I am going for the Judgment Day.
Ripley.
That is it.
Ripley specifically.
That's it. Rhea and Dominic. That is going to be the pairing that comes out of this. That's going to be the new male-female threat when Dominic joins this Judgment Day group. But there you go. That was the show, and the Usos win yet again.
Yeah. No, so firstly, that match, I really feel like that was like a real good match that they had, the Usos and Ray, Dominic Mysterio. Like I really enjoy like the crowd, like you said, like they came like a laugh at that, like especially like the back end of that match, like they were amped as hell for it, and then of course like the end of it, like I'm really like enjoying this thing that they're doing with like Rhea and Dominic now. Like I don't know like what this is or like what exactly like this is leading to, or maybe just a thing like her treating him like the punk little brother and stuff like that. But like I'm like thoroughly enjoying this. Like in all honesty, I'm hoping at some point that like Aaliyah Mysterio gets like more involved in this, or like at least to something with her and Rhea down the line or something like that, like her just beating on the whole family. But I think we'll see some along the lines like maybe like Edge versus Balor at Clash at the Castle. Like that'll be one of the undercard matches on that show.
Yeah, I could certainly see that. You also have, I guess, the inevitable tag of like Edge and Ray together, and then Dominic kind of fits into this like somewhere, and obviously I guess they're going to tease some like tension between Edge and Dominic coming out of this. So good angle to end this. I think the Judgment Day, like they still have a lot of rehab to go through as a group, but you know they're paired in like a significant story right now, and Edge is back in a role that I think he's better suited for than where he was as the leader of this group. But that was Raw. I thought a lot better wrestling typically than we get on most episodes of Raw. I don't think that was a coincidence that we saw that kind of match construction on this show. But what did you think about the Raw following SummerSlam overall?
Man, they kept me hooked for the majority of the 3 hours. Like normally, I'm like for real, like in the past 4 to 5 months, like and even before that, like it's been times where, like, I've like legit fell asleep, like, oh, I covering this shit. Like, I remember I was supposed to do a podcast with, I think with you and Way, or Nate and Way, and I like legit fell asleep like before the podcast started. Like, it was the times where I'll have to like keep myself entertained by like just keeping up with like the news that's going on, and like writing stuff up on the site, like to keep myself like occupied, like while the show is going on, and like I'll just take notes here and there. But like I was like really like interested in this show, and like I think it also had something to do with like the fact that this is like the first official Raw with the new regime in place. So like that also entices me to want to watch the show. But I thought it was a good job, man. It was, of course, things could have been better, but I mean, like, I'm not expecting like this 3-hour show to be like great every week. But as long as it keeps the pace and it's like it's not dragging, then you can keep it the way it is.
Well, you know what? When I found out that Way was going to be off for a couple of weeks, it's like, okay, no problem. The hardest show to find people to review this with, it's this show, okay? And I feel that with these changes, there's more of an appetite now for people to come in and join for Raw. So I think all of this worked in concert with one another. We have a few super chats here. We start off. Robert Pearson. Oh, thanks very much. Sending a $10 super chat. Great coverage as always, guys. Robert Pearson, the man. Go buy his hoodies. They get a 2 thumbs up from me. The hoodies.
Robert is a good dude. I like Robert, man. Real good dude right there. Very
much so. Next one here from well, I don't know who this is, but excited to be excited for WWE. Thanks for the great coverage. Zaw3607. Well, thank you very much for the super chat. And one more here comes from Slim Sieber. Shout out to Andrew. Great job tonight. Mm-hmm. Do you guys expect the same level of push for the Intercontinental Championship this Friday? Do you see kind of just an overall elevation of those secondary titles?
Hey, John, Gunther versus Shinsuke at Clash of the Castle?
Yeah, for sure. I think that's, a direction that they've been building to. You could, I think whether Shinsuke or anyone else, I do expect Gunther to have like a major match. Well, as major as, that's his placement on the card will be, but Shinsuke is the built up program. So yeah, that would be one to do there.
In all honesty, like, and just to further answer Slim's question, like I definitely think they're going to go like along the route of like, further building up those titles, those mid-card titles that really haven't been like a main focus or really seem like a priority. I think that's going to be something that's going to be focused on more going forward. I think we're going to see Ricochet more in the title picture back again. Honestly, what I'm really anticipating is that it's just this eventual, and I think it's going to happen. Like it's not anything out there like any reports about it. I just think it's going to happen is that eventual Butch transition back to Pete Dunne. Like I 100. There is no way that Triple H is not going to let Pete Dunne go back to his original version. And to be honest with you, like I wouldn't be surprised if he's on that show, if that Clash of the Castle show.
Yeah, it's going to be very interesting to see, subtle changes versus major changes that, I feel like Paul Levesque is going to be in this interesting role where we don't want to make this like a complete kind of repudiation of Vince McMahon's vision of WWE, right. But inevitably, like over time, I think he will get more kind of comfortable in transitioning things, but is it going to be slow, subtle changes that a year from now, we're going to be watching a totally different person's product, or is it going to be massive changes within a month? I think it's more the latter, that we're going to look back and see all the changes, but they're going to be slow and subtle.
Hey, John, percentage of any NXT UK talent being on this show?
It's a good question. Regardless of changes, I would still say very, very tiny. I don't know.
The only way I think that'll happen, you know what? Because Tyler Bate, it hasn't happened yet, but Tyler Bate is the champion. I think right now, like I think it has a shot. I think Ilya, because I know Ilya's going to relinquish the title. I'm sorry if I spoil anybody that doesn't know that, but okay, but yeah, Ilya's going to relinquish the title, and I think Tyler Bate's the champion. So like, I can definitely see Tyler Bate probably get a title match in that show. I don't know against who, but like that's probably to the extent of like I even see any NXT UK representation.
It's a title that honestly, like if you have any allusions to that brand having any value, like that title should be defended on that show. Like that would make a lot of sense to do it. And I would say like a month ago, not a prayer. We will see now. One other one coming here from Matt Hahn. Thank you very much for the $5 super chat. I've noticed the promos have gotten better as well in the last week, not just word vomit. Have you sensed any small changes yet in just the promos themselves, or is it kind of looking too deeply into things at this point? I wouldn't say it's like jumped out at me in a big way thus far.
Now, I don't think it's looking too deeply. Like I think that you can sort of like, maybe if you like go back and look at something, you can sort of get the sense that maybe talents are like, maybe like they have a little bit more wiggle room. Like even with Drew McIntyre's promo before the that Donnybrook match against Sheamus, like Drew, that seemed like that was like just a Drew McIntyre promo, like there's something that came from him, and that was him speaking, about his history and stuff like that, and speaking very I'm trying to find the right word, like forcefully, but like in a naturally good way and stuff like that. So I think that as the weeks come on, we'll see talent start to be like more free and have more wiggle room to work with in terms of what they say on TV.
I think over time we're going to hear people a lot more relaxed, and that goes for the broadcasters as well. I think that is.
Yeah. Hey, Michael Cole is the winner. He's the winner. He wins everything. Michael Cole has won everything.
It's got to be like the ultimate culture shock for him to be going through. Like I found him to be noticeable on SummerSlam. Like it felt like someone that just it's like he's been given his get out of jail free card.
I remember he said that he was like a percentage of like deaf in one of his ears, like from the years of like people like screaming in his ear and stuff like that. Like I'm like, dude, I know this dude is like he's never going to say it, but I know like internally he's like, thank goodness, like I'm free.
He might have been hoping like, well, when's the other ear going to give out for me, because I can't take this yelling anymore. All right, from forum.postwrestling.com, some feedback here before we wrap things up. Denise from Georgia writes, this was an okay Raw that did a good job emphasizing its primary focus on establishing the U.S. title and Bayley's new stable. DQ, huh? I guess it's the only way from having Io not losing her first match apart from a draw, which I would have gotten on board with. My only complaint is too many video packages, hoping that they leave the mentality of treating your audience as if it's their first time watching with Vince. Take care and be safe, good people. All right. Thank you, Denise. Nas writes, enjoyed this show a lot. It's still far from perfect, but I'm very optimistic. Bianca runs faster in pencil heels than I ever could in Jordans. What a champ. Mm-hmm. John and Andrew, do either of you have any insights on the reports earlier today that Sasha and Naomi have re-signed with the company? That report was definitely going around. I cannot confirm it, but you have had other sources indicating that there is a likelihood of that, and I think it certainly is. To me, that would be a move that I would be very incentivized to want to make if I am WWE, because it's the ultimate signal to your audience of things are different now, and it's like Sasha Banks and Naomi endorsing this new regime if they were to come back on your television. So I think it would. I think it serves everyone really well to make that happen. But I can't say I have that confirmed yet.
Yeah, I'm about to say if you see either me, John, or our good man Neil Flanagan, who's on the news team now. Shout out to Neil, man. If you and but honestly, I'm being so serious. Like, if you see either one of us post that story on the site, then it'll probably come from John's confirmation, or we'll have like multiple reputable sources that have independently confirmed this, that we feel comfortable enough running this. So I definitely think you'll see that if it is to be confirmed. But like, we'll definitely like take a in-depth look at that, if that is the case. But like, in terms of like the idea of Naomi and Sasha coming back, that's massive right there. And I think they got more steam behind them more than ever. And I think it also benefited them, the fact that they have not said a word about any of this. Like, they haven't done any interviews. Like, they got the C2E2 appearance next month, right? And this month.
I think it's this weekend. This weekend. Yeah.
Oh man, the photos making the rounds of that is gonna break the internet, man. But Naomi and Sasha coming back. But if they have indeed got them back to WWE, that's massive, bro. And then you immediately got another shot in the arm in that women's division. Like that's I'm gonna be real with you, bro. That's the key. I'm telling you, like, having like a great women's division, that's where it's at. And if you can add Sasha and Naomi back to either one of those, like maybe not even together, maybe you put one on Raw, one on SmackDown, it's another win.
Jay from Colorado writes, first time in over a year watching an entire Raw front to back. It doesn't appear much has changed, but change takes time, and I'm optimistic in the direction they are going. One thing I will say is that I can't even see how even in the best of circumstances I can devote 3 hours of Monday nights to Raw every week. I know this will never be a 2-hour show again, but I can dream. Thanks to both of you for getting me addicted to F1. I definitely didn't have time for Raw in my life again, but now I have to fit in practices, qualifying, and the races. At least it's summer break. Maybe Ferrari can use this time to pull their heads out of their asses. Yeah, if you thought WWE was in disarray, dude, Ferrari is just, man, these guys just... I was listening to this. I don't know if you're much into F1, Andrew, but Ferrari has just been making these strategic, just egregious errors, and like their drivers are just like falling apart at the seams here of just failure after failure. And on this one podcast I'm listening to, they interviewed some fans who are like technically breaking down what Ferrari has done wrong, and it's like the hosts are joking, like even these fans like understand like the tire problems that Ferrari's not quite understanding. But yeah, nonetheless, it was not a great race for them on Sunday. But you need to hop into Drive to Survive, Andrew. You'll be hooked on Netflix.
My only like anything that is like the playing like the racing car games, like the Grand Tour. Have you ever played Midnight Club, Tom? You ever played Midnight Club?
No, I have not.
Oh my goodness, we got to get. You know what? That's what I want. Next time we got to do some type of gaming stream. Me, you, and like everybody else. We can do like a John Pollock gaming stream. We have you play all the racing games and stuff like that. Meet you up at some WWE 2K22 or something like that. That'd be our thing.
I'd have to learn all these games. Oh, look, hey, some royalty weighing in here with a super chat. The one and only Andrew's former co-host, Martin Bushby. Great job, guys. I want to ask Andrew if a man should be able to laugh more than once a day.
Hey, John, have you seen this tweet? That's like this thing went viral. It was this dude. He tweeted out. Me and Mario been laughing about this for like the past like week. This dude tweeted out. He said, as a man, he said, no grown man should be laughing more than twice a day. He was like, one good laugh is good enough, and after that, you need to get serious. And then,
what an observation! What a conclusion to make.
Me and Martin, I'm talking about, we've been laughing at this tweet all day, and I remember Martin had corrected me one time. He was like, "I hope you use your one good laugh for the day." And it was like people, they was putting these memes like in the comment section and calling the dude tweeted. They was like calling him like the giggling cop or something like that, or like all this funny stuff. But yeah, that was Martin, one of the funniest tweets of my life, and like I like saying Martin always. Me and Martin got this little like running joke going on, like we can't make a joke more than one day, or you're not a grown man. It's hilarious. I'm gonna send you this tweet once we get off this note.
You explained it very well. That's you conveyed it very well here. I'm just imagining someone who's like, what's your New Year's resolution? It's like, you know what? I want to cut back on the laughter. You know? It's getting in the way of stuff. I got to get down to business, man.
It's like no
I'm 50.
Should be laughing more than twice a day.
I've done childhood. I'm a man.
Shout out to Martin. Hey, John, hold on. I got real quick.
Dude, what time is it? Martin, dude, it's like 5:45 in the morning there. His day's just starting right now. Maybe he's, Martin's getting to work.
Martin, he left me, man. We had a great thing going. You want to know what? You want to know what's so messed up about it, John? Next month, around this time, will have been the debut of Bushby and Thompson, September 2020. Our first episode with Nate Milton, WrestleMania 19, and we could have hit the 1 year mark.
Man, the question I have is if Martin's going to sign for the FedEx because there's a warning on it says may contain guilt. Signed Andrew Thompson. Man, just dropping that on poor Martin's doorstep. Guys checking in on us at 5:45 in the morning, off to work, and here's Andrew. The guy left me. Just left me. Like Montez Ford is going to leave Angelo Dawkins.
Oh my goodness. The Street Profits breaker. We don't need. I laughed more than once. Serious.
Time to get serious.
Time to get serious.
Time to get serious here with Muggin, who's got the last word of the night. After avoiding Raw like the plague the last couple of months, this episode was easy to watch. Matches got to breathe, stories got to build, commentary felt looser, and it drew upon recent history. Seeing someone like Champa having a good night winning 2 matches is a byproduct of Hunter's creative vision. The U.S. title in one night became more important than at any point during Vince's tenure. It'll take more than one show to win back fans' favor, but these tweaks go a long way to making sure it happens. I think if there's one conclusion we can make, Andrew, is that there is an overall sense of optimism. Whether it's truly realized and deserved, we're going to need like several months for that. But there seems to be a ton of open-mindedness when it comes to this audience that believes that this will be a product for the better with these creative changes.
I agree.
Andrew, you have been a true pro joining me tonight on Rewind to Raw. I'm going to tell you right now, I am going to hit you up again to join me at some point this month. So we will have to do this again. It seemed a lot of people enjoyed our chat tonight. But the floor is yours. What is going on in your world? I know you're going to be doing some traveling this week. I don't know how much you can divulge, but always busy in the world of Andrew Thompson.
Yeah, I'm going to be going to a convention later. It's from Thursday to Sunday, and I'm going to be traveling back home on Monday. But yeah, I'm gonna be having some interviews here on the YouTube channel. Of course, I'm gonna do the written version here on post. But yeah, I'm gonna try to, like I said, some pretty big names gonna be at this convention, man. So I'm gonna try my best to get some of those up there, and then we could add some good promotion on the site and stuff like that, man. So I'm excited to do those. I always get like super hella nervous when I do interviews, but like it's like that good nerve, because like I just don't want to fuck it up. So like that's like my main thing. So yeah, I'm excited about that. And then of course you can check out the written work over at Post Wrestling. Of course the news team, yourself, good man Neil, my sworn enemy Neil Flanagan, and myself doing the news. And check me out on Twitter at @AD_Thompson_, and stay tuned to the Andrew Thompson Interviews YouTube channel, man. You never know who you might see on there. You never know.
If someone's checking out your interviews for the first time, what would be one you would recommend for someone that's never heard you do an interview before, that one you were very proud of, that you would send people to? I would advise, I would recommend the Chris Hero interview. I think that's a great one that you did.
That's the Chris Hero one, definitely one of my favorites. I would probably say check out that Chris Hero, the Chris Hero one, the Jeff Jarrett one. I like the one I did with Savannah Evans too from Impact Wrestling. I did 2 with her as well, and that was really cool. And I like the one I did with Leo Rush. That was a solid one, I think. And I'm gonna go ahead and shoot my shot right here, John. Like, I don't know if this dude is watching. I really don't. Probably not. But if he is, Amazing Red, please let me do the honors, brother. Please. I need one interview. That John, that is my number one bucket list interview. Amazing Red. This dude is like off the grid. Like, I was talking to John Cena a couple weeks back. I feel like the only way you even see this dude these days is like you got to pop up at a House of Glory show. You might see him. Like, that's like the only way you'll see Amazing Red. So like that's like my number one bucket list interview. I just want to throw that out there. Hopefully somebody find him. Yeah.
Put it out there, and we'll try and make it happen with one Amazing Red. But I hope you have safe travels this week, and grab a ton of interviews. And thank you very much for joining me, Andrew. Always doing phenomenal work up on the site, so you can check that out. And if you're wondering what is Paul Levesque going to say to Logan Paul, Andrew will have you covered, I'm sure, on Tuesday. So that's going to wrap things up. Tuesday, I'm back with Mike Murray. We're going to be doing a G1 podcast covering day number 10, which is going to feature Tom Lawler versus Toru Yano, including, what he said is the match he's most looking forward to. And Will Ospreay and David Finlay is the main event of that show. Wednesday night, Braden and Davey are both joining me for Rewind to Dynamite. We're going to have an amalgamation of Rewind to Dynamite and BD Elite. So look out for that Wednesday night live here on the channel at 10 Eastern. And the whole schedule is up at postwrestling.com. 3 G1 shows this week for Post Wrestling Cafe members. And then me, solo Saturday night, going through Battle of the Belts. So if you're sick of my voice, you're going to be on life support by the end of this month. So that is it for us. A big thank you to Andrew Thompson and all of you for joining us live, especially one Martin Bushby, waking up at the crack of dawn to John Pollock and Andrew Thompson. And that is it. And that concludes Rewind to Raw.